What's happening? I'm ready to go to bed. It's past my bedtime. I got a belly full. What's happening, everybody? Just want to say hello. Welcome to the weekly hang with myself and my brass, my, my piece of brass. Man, my piece of brass is getting a little ugly. It's been sitting in the case a little too long, man. It's looking pretty bad. Anyway, welcome. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'd like to introduce a good friend of mine, my right-hand man. He might be on my left side. He might be on my downside. He might be on the left side, right side, upside. How about a hand for my man, Stephen Wright from LaGrange, Chicago area, Illinois. Say hello, Stephen.
What's up, everybody? I'm down and to the right.
Down and to the right. So
Down and to the right
way.
Today.
Really?
Yeah.
Southeast? Southeast?
I'm southeast, but you're flipped, so we'll go from there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always flipped. The flapjack.
Yeah.
So it's been a very interesting week for everybody, I'm sure. Everybody's been still stuck in the quarantine, which is a good thing. Staying home and safe is a beautiful thing. So I kind of need this outlet because I go out of my mind. And Stephen, I think you feel the same way, right? I mean, basically we're cooped up in our houses like everybody else. So this is kind of a nice outlet for us. We appreciate everybody coming. You feel the same way, buddy?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been under lockdown for quite a while. So
yeah. Well, you actually were under lockdown way before that.
I was.
They stuck you in purgatory.
Yeah, I was.
You weren't feeling good. We did a gig in December. Was it December?
Yeah, we did a gig in December in New York.
Then when we had like a 4-day tour.
Yeah.
We did 2 gigs upstate New York, and did you come to New York City too, or no?
Yes, yeah.
And that's where you originally got sick.
Yep. Yeah, I was doing quarantine before quarantine was cool.
Yeah, and now look, you're you didn't know you were a trendsetter.
Yeah. Yep.
What a mess.
Yeah.
So everybody's feeling good in the neighborhood, and so last week we touched on a whole bunch of things I was working on, and we want to make this informal. It's a hang. So we want to learn from you, and you can learn from us. I don't know what you're going to learn from us. Whatever you're going to learn from us. I understood. Actually, this is exciting. A band parent and a teacher. I think it was from Fox. Was it Fox Schools? And
Yeah.
What state was that?
Yeah, it's in Missouri, in Arnold.
Say that again. I'm sorry. I got do you hear my dings going on here?
I did.
All right. So that's technology for you. I got to figure out how I can mute that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's Arnold, Missouri. The Fox kids at Fox Bands, and Allison was nice enough to let all the kids know about the Tuesday night hang, and I see she just joined our chat. So what's up, Allison?
Welcome. Appreciate it. So yeah, we're gonna learn from everybody. Again, this is not. I'm not preaching. I'm just hanging out. I'll play a little bit. We'll talk. I don't want this to be like a trumpet hang. There's a million. I'm sorry. I'm also looking to turn my do not disturb on. I'm in general settings, but that ain't gonna work, is it? Anyway, forget that. If it dings, it dings. It's informal, right? So,
yep.
Long story short is, this technology is great because it's bringing a lot of people together. We all know this. That's all positive things. There's a million sax players, trombone players, singers, choral directors, trumpet players. Everybody's being very instrument specific, which is great. So there's enough of that. You don't need another guy telling you how to play trumpet. You don't want to listen to me. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. I always tell everybody anyway. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, but the world doesn't need this has been my mantra, and I think this is going to stick in today's in today's epidemics. The world doesn't need another great vocalist. The world doesn't need another great trumpet player. The world doesn't need another great sanitation worker. What the world needs is a great person and a sanitation worker, a great person and a trumpet player, a great person, and blah blah blah. So if you define yourself with your trade, that's great. But if you're not a nice person and people don't want to be around you, hey man, it's the world doesn't need that right now. Especially now, you really see who your real friends are and who your real family is, and it's amazing when pandemics and all these things kind of come around. I mean, so that's what I like to talk about. Is just being positive, and we can touch on some music things, and we will, and I'll play a little bit. But I mean, you have anything to add to that, Stephen? I mean,
No, I think it's good. It's and we've got a nice cross section of people because you got people coming in from the Maynard days. I have some friends and family have already joined. You've got I see a few people that I recognize from former Billy Hangs. So we've got a nice cross section of people. So yes, it's not just trumpet players. So if you're a student that's on here and you want to ask a question, feel free to jump in, ask any questions that you want. It doesn't even have to be trumpet specific. If you happen to see the video that we put out last week, you'll know that Carl plays a little bit more than trumpet, so we can answer questions all for everybody. So.
And it doesn't have to be just a student; it could be anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like I said, almost I want to learn from you just as much as you're going to learn from me. Again, don't take it with a grain of salt. You ain't going to learn anything from me. You go to the beach, there's a lot of salt and a lot of sand. That's what you're going to get. A lot of that. So anyway, just speaking of that, you know what? A lot of people is like, hey man, you need to play more. So. So that is, what was that? Straight No Chaser? I don't even know the name of the freaking tune. It's a blues, I know that. Is that Straight No Chaser?
Yeah.
Or did I lose you? Yeah, Straight No Chaser.
No. Hey, do me a favor. Keep playing. I'm going to flip back to the screen where it's me, and I'm going to act like it's me doing it. No, I'm just kidding. I swear.
I should take credit for that.
Hey, my dad is watching. I gotta show off.
The reason I play that is just we get technical. It's just a blues. Okay, so a lot of beginning students that approach me at concerts and at workshops across the country always ask me, "Hey, how do I start working on my improvisation?" you know, how do I work on tunes, blah, blah, blah. And every week we're going to touch on little things. I'll give you little catalysts. But the reason I played that was it's just a simple blues format. So I'm a firm believer in, it's horrible saying this, but being your best band, playing by yourself, being able to keep form. And the blues is a 12-bar blues is, you know, very simple form, 1-4-5 form, and something you should check out. If you haven't checked it out, you know, it's all about call and response, you know, being able to play off your blues scale, so learn your blues scale. But one of the things I like to mess around with, and I'm just kind of talking, and anybody can hit me with questions on this, but, you know, is stylistically, where do I want to go? Do I want to sound like an old, how do I want to phrase things? So in the beginning, I kind of took it, you know, first let's just talk about, there was a melody, there was a head, which was, had a couple stumbles there because I was thinking. First thing is don't think. But so that's your 12-bar form, and that is your melody on that song. When I first started improvising on it, I took it very, for lack of a better word, I tried to keep things open and kind of have dialogue or a conversation with myself. So I'd play a phrase like, so that would be my question. My answer would be, so, what did I play? That's a question. That would be the answer. So that kind of phrasing is more out of the bebop school, but I actually tried to bring it back and go back into another era, kind of like the swing or traditional era, kind of like the New Orleans Louis Armstrong. So now, you know, there's just so many great styles and stuff to comp from. Now, if I get into a Billy gig and I'm playing, which is like the shout chorus for Mulberry Street, Big Man on Mulberry Street, I'm not going to play that older traditional style. I kind of like to play a little bit more modern. So. Not that I'm playing a lot, I am playing a lot more notes, but I'm playing in the style of a more modern player. Freddie Hubbard, Dizzy Gillespie, you know, not Miles. Miles doesn't play like that. But so it's very important to check out a lot of great musicians and a lot of different styles and stylistically. You could play a million different blues tunes in different styles, you know? So that's something I always like to talk about. That's something for the younger student. Or even I have some adult students that come to me and say, I know I'm kind of lost. I'm a great reader. I can play a lot of different styles reading wise. I can play classical. I can play big band jazz. I can play weddings. I can play Italian music, but I don't have a handle on if I was to play by myself and to kind of solo, how would I approach that? So that's always the first thing I say. Hey, I got a question for Steven.
Sure.
Do we have FG3 here?
FG3.
Frank Green?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Oh, okay.
No.
Because I got something for him if he comes around.
No. I actually do have a quick question. We got a lot of people in the chat already. And
cool.
I'm gonna get back to some of the later ones. What was
Okay.
that?
Yep.
We have Michael Brennan is asking, do you practice different licks that you plug into your improvised solos, and how often do you transcribe?
Great question. When you're young or old and always to a point where you feel like you get pigeonholed, you don't have a lot of information, a lot of licks to play. Copying things is a great thing. Transcribing is a great thing. For 2 years, from 7th and 8th grade, I studied with the great Cecil Bridgewater, who was a wonderful trumpet player. And with Cecil was with the Max Roach double quartet with famous drummer Max Roach. And Cecil is a great educator and unbelievable trumpet player. He was in the original Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra on Monday nights, which is now the Vanguard Orchestra. And I go into this story with him all the time. For 2 years in 7th and 8th grade, oh, there's my man Frank Green. I love you, Frankie. So long story short, with Cecil, man, all we did for 2 years was transcribe, work on a transcribe. And actually, a lot of Long Island guys who lived in Long Island, because Cecil lived in Long Island. That's where I'm from. We all had the same lesson. We were all like, man, why is Cecil having us play this freaking, this transcribed solo? It was, which I think I touched on, maybe I played it last week from something, I don't remember. It's a Clifford Brown song called Joy Spring. So I had to learn the melody, which is a beautiful melody. That was part of the melody. But his improvised solo was. Okay, so, and it kept on going, and it was a wonderful solo. And that's all I dealt with for 2 years was articulation, phrasing, swinging, and analyzing those lines. And to this day, I mean, I'm 48. I was 14 when I played that solo originally, 14, 15. And there's things I pull out of that still. So transcribing, I mean, really getting into that character of that articulation of that trumpet player. Dizzy Gillespie solos, man, learn all of them, you know. Another guy that I love transcribing from was, believe it or not, people laugh at me, Chet Baker, you know. So he's got that nice, beautiful, fluffy sound. That's one of the heads. I don't remember all of it, but that was one of his solos. So I went through a million different transcriptions and tried to learn the intent and the flow of the line. So you want to put these things in a pot, mix them up, and hopefully you come out as yourself. You start with duplication. That's the sincere form of flattery. Duplication is great. Trying to duplicate, just like everybody has a tribute band. I'm going to tribute this. I'm going to tribute that. That's wonderful. I was very fortunate to play with Maynard Ferguson, great jazz trumpet player. And there's another buddy. What's happening? So another thing, though, with the duplication is that's great. You can duplicate this guy, but now I want to hear you. That was kind of Maynard's mantra. It's like, okay, now play Carl. And hopefully you stir that pot and something comes out of that pot. And it's, so yeah, transcribe as much as you can, get into as many different players as you can, not just on the instrument, man. I listen to singers. You laugh at me. I listen to phrasing of singers. Stephen, we can talk about earlier. We were trying to get this YouTube thing happening today. And Stephen's like, oh, play me, just get some tunes going on here. And I turned on the Sinatra thing with the basic band. And I haven't heard that in ages. And it made me want to play. It just made me feel good and kind of grabbed Frank's phrasing. Frank was great. Frank Sinatra was great. So don't be instrument specific with things. Really try to delve into whatever you like. And then whatever you like the sound of, grab that, run with it. And then try to, eventually once you internalize that, it's going to come out in a different way. You just have to have enough things internalizing. Into internalize them and get them out. Another thing that a lot of people are really, I hate to use the word, but lazy about, because technology is so rampant. We can go on, we can check anything out that we want. You want to hear a pop singer, you pop it on. I want to hear Jax, and you turn Jax on, and you check her phrasing out, and you check this guy's phrasing, and he's a bassoonist. What the hell do you want to listen to that for? But I want to hear a legit bassoon. This guy's playing a great bassoon, and you might have someone might have written their solo out. So you can get this information very easily, but it's very hard to internalize that information. So the way we had to do it back in the day was it wasn't there. You had to physically write it out or grab it by your ear. Down the road, guys were transcribing and you would play from the transcriptions. But if you play from those transcriptions, you still have to analyze them. That was the key. What, and the analyzation would be where, what the chord movement and structure was. And that always comes in handy when you're playing anything new or just trying to get that style. So did that answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. And actually, I've got another one that came in through text, actually. Kind of along those same lines is how do you, and you touched on it briefly, but how do you almost guard yourself from becoming a
oh, it's all wet.
Oh my goodness, put that away.
I'm in Florida, baby. Woo!
Put that away. How do you keep from becoming a locked into your bag of tricks, so to speak?
By not being comfortable.
Right. So because you run into people where it almost sounds like they're just playing lick after lick after lick after lick, and then there's no, like you said, there's no them in between.
Okay, you see this room right here?
Yeah, man.
This is my practice room studio. This is where I am supposed to sound sad. I'm supposed to sound bad here. If I'm not sounding bad and sad, I'm not practicing. I'm not doing my job. I'm not working on something that I'm trying to improve. Your whole job is to sound sad and improve. There's an Arvid's book on and I'm a horrible classical trumpet player, but every time I play anything I like, I pick up the Arvid's book. I'll try to play an etude. Arvid's book for non-trumpet players is just another etude study book. It's kind of like the Brass Bible. It has a million etudes and, wonderful exercises. And you might put the metronome on and play it where you're uncomfortable. So, you want to be uncomfortable. You don't want to sound good. And anything out of your safety zone that you're uncomfortable with, you're going to learn how to land on your feet. You got to be like a cat. Mm-hmm. I'm like the Tiger King. Take my shirt off like the Tiger King's boyfriend. Dude, my name is Tex. I like tigers. You like tigers? All right, so judging from that, though, I'm going to go back a little bit. So I'm going to do this. This is for my man, Frank. Frank, you know who you are. This is one of my favorite brothers from another mother. One of the best B-flat trumpet players. He can play anything. He's my favorite lead player. He's my favorite buddy. He's my brother from another mother. So I wanted to play Happy Birthday for my boy, but there was another reason for that. We love you, Frank. Keep on doing what you're doing. You're a positive influence. And, I like to go back with playing Happy Birthday, man. People say, well, how do I get started? I don't know this straight no chaser jazz song. It's a jazz song. I don't know it. Pick up any melody. Happy birthday. So I do this in a lot of the clinics. Everybody knows Happy Birthday. So you know the melody, right? So you know the melody. You don't need to look at your music. You don't need to, that melody so well. You just start slowly embellishing the melody. Embellishing meaning figure out what notes work in that. So that's a really, really fun exercise. I always have students just play 4 bars. come up with something that you feel that's fun on it. You know, it's a fun thing. You don't have to, oh, you played a B natural, it should be a B flat. You know, you'll learn that, especially if you learn your blues scale and you'll learn simple 12-bar blues forms and things like this. You'll know what notes really work. And that's for you teachers to work on. They'll give you scales and things to work on. But what I can talk to you about and what I really like dealing with is concepts, flows, and concepts of phrasing. I love that. So that's kind of what, to me, that's what makes a good player really shine, is when they're phrased, even if they play wrong notes, man. Frank can attest to this. We'd be on Maynard's band, and Maynard would play something on wrong. Maynard being a great trumpet player, Maynard would play something wrong on purpose, you know, just to kind of, or outside the chord change, to kind of keep everybody looking, you know, keep everybody guessing. But he would play it with such conviction. He'd turn around and smile at us, you know, like, hey, man, I got you guys, you know, and it would sound hip. It would sound good. You know, he could make it sound good. Not that he did that all the time, but he was a master of phrasing. You know, it comes out of all those guys. So anyway, I went on a tangent on that.
No, that was good. Yeah, Frank actually joined the chat. Mr. Frank Green, thanks for joining, buddy.
My man, thanks. I feel smarter and better that you're here now. Yes,
yeah. Hey, wait. You want to give Frank a little shout out? Looky here.
Yeah.
Looky here what I got on my bookshelf, Frank. I Knew That by Frank Green. Right here.
Great book, man. First, you got to be able to read a book. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I didn't say. I mean, it's not even creased. Oh, I'm just kidding. Along the same playing lines. Oh, we had a couple other. Mike MacArthur made actually a really good point that as a sax.
Who?
Mike MacArthur.
Mackie. What's up, Mackie?
He made a good point of, as a sax player, playing with other people like trumpet players has helped him to learn to blend and to gain a different perspective, as opposed to just being typical sax lines. So, you know, playing with other people, especially for the students, you know, playing with other people is going to be a valuable experience as well, like Mike says.
Well, vice versa too. I mean, it's like Mike and I played a lot together. Mike is a great tenor player here in Tampa Bay. He's my neighbor, basically. He's in Tampa Bay. We were on Maynard Ferguson's band together. I got Mike out on that, and we had a great time together. He's very successful as a businessman and a wonderful sax player. But I remember being younger too, and man, playing with tenor players. My favorite thing, I think, to this day, is playing with a great tenor player. You know, Mike MacArthur, John Scarpula, Bob Franceschini, you know, playing rock and pop with Mark Rivera, man. He's got to talk about a vibe, you know. He's got the whole rock and roll thing, sax phrasing together, man. You know, it's so, you know, playing great trombone players, Ozzy Melendez, you know, Mark Miller is great. And there's a lot of great guys, man. But just trying to get the essence of the way they phrase is, you know, and, you know, that also has to be somebody in the section to lead it. And it's usually the fat lead trumpet player. Just for the simple reason that's kind of the way the chain of command, you know, I play God's instrument. So remember that, saxophone players. You know, our horns were around way before saxophones were. You know, we were God's instrument, right, Stephen? I mean, come on, man. Of course. It's a holy instrument, you know. Dude, but you know, it's always been a triumphant thing, man. You know, playing the fanfares and stuff like that. So it's an easy horn to kind of blend with. But don't be that stupid lead trumpet player, man. Don't be that guy. Immerse yourself. Be a sponge. Listen to the tenor player. How he's phrasing it. He might have something for you that you never thought of. He might have some nuance and a way of swinging something differently. Or this trombone guy might have, you know. So be a sponge when you're in these rehearsals and just be a sponge, you know. There'll be a time and place for you to be that stupid lead trumpet player, like I am a lot, and like all my friends are. But you have to grow, you know.
You know, a couple other things that are kind of related to this before we move on to some other questions that are a little less technical.
Meatballs. Let's talk about my sauce. No, Mike Del Judas has the meatballs thing, but I got the sauce, bro. So, okay, go ahead. Sorry, I got excited.
No, just to kind of go full circle. Frank says playing with you on Maynard's band was too fun. Surprised you guys didn't get fired.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Frank and I, man, I remember we had to do the gig. You did it with John Owens also, but we had the gig we had a tour where it ended up being 2 trumpets. It was a 3 trumpet section, and it ended up being 2, and it was Frank and I. I learned more from Frank indirectly and directly, but more indirectly. He was one of the guys. He was actually, and I'm not trying to just blow sunshine up on him. I like that word lately, sunshine. But it's the truth, man. He's a sponge. He'd be like, here, I think you should play this lead part on this. I need a rest, or I should rest, and I think you'd benefit better on playing this. So he was great at, boosting you up, man. And, like, this guy has the sound of, you put Conrad Gazzo, you put John Faddis, you put Dizzy Gillespie, you put Maynard Ferguson, and you put Snooky Young, maybe another couple guys in a pot. You stir it, and Frank Green comes out. Like, the sound of just the command. He was, for people who are not musicians, he was the last lead trumpet player on the Late Night with David Letterman. He was on that show for a number of years before Dave closed. He's still in the world's most dangerous band. But yeah, man, I mean, I remember learning, and again, it was the indirect thing, but we had so much fun, man, because, how can you not have fun playing music? How can you not have fun with guys that have like-minded haircuts?
I think that translated though.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that translated because, the whole vibe, and I think why people are still talking about not just Maynard as a person, but as the band, we're 14 years, since Maynard has passed, and people are still like, man, I miss going out and seeing the band. That translated because, people wanted to just go because it was a hang, standing by the merch table. I mean, I pretty much everything I've done in the past 15 years has been a result of Ed not kicking a nerdy trumpet player away from the merch table. I got to know you guys. We ended up working together. I've gotten to play in the band. I've gotten to meet and play with guys I would never have, even thought of. Yeah. But before we get to a couple of the other questions, you actually mentioned something that was pretty funny. When you mentioned, God's instrument, it reminded me of, you guys did a show with Maynard in this church.
Was that in Miami or in the Midwest? Because we did one in Miami too.
It was in the Midwest. It was at this church in Kansas City. And as you know, Ed was not only a good manager, but a lighting guy also.
Steven's talking about Maynard's road manager, Ed Sargent, who's a great friend of ours. I don't mean to interrupt you, Steven.
No, it's good. Thank you.
And what makes a great organization run is usually the guy with his feet on the ground. So with Billy Joel, we have a lot of guys. We probably have 10 guys with their feet on the ground that are in management that just have done it for so long. And Ed was our point guy with Maynard. And just like when I'm fortunate enough to go out with my band Ted Eye or my small big band or Organic Groove or this new thing, Steven's kind of fallen in a place, man. You need somebody who knows the reality and the nuance of the music, who believes in the music and knows how to communicate, and is an ambassador. Like I said, the world doesn't need another great trumpet player. They need a great person first, and you need an ambassador because this business is hard enough, man. So you need an ambassador like Steven and Ed. So Ed was like, I venture to say, Steven, Ed was probably a role model for you, just like he was for me in the way he dealt with people. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely. And the thing is it's not even, it was the fact that, like you said, he was a good person, and that rang true for me. The other thing was the guy is intensely into whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, even after Maynard with Joan Jett, I mean, the guy's running around like nothing else exists except the job that he's trying to do.
Yeah, he left Maynard when Maynard passed away in 2006. I was living in Baldwin still. I had an apartment in Baldwin, and Joan Jett, the famous rock and roll, I love rock and roll guitar player, is from Rockville Center, another Long Island girl. And she used to go to the same Indian restaurant. For some reason, look at this body. I like food. I had an Indian restaurant I used to go to, and Joan used to go all the time. So, Ed gets a call from Joan Jett's management, says, and Ed's from Memphis, Tennessee. And Ed would come, you know, he didn't have a gig, and man, I was fishing a lot. I was doing a Broadway show at that point, so I'd fish a lot. I had the boat in the backyard. I was very lucky and fortunate. Ed would come and we'd fish. He goes, "Hey, I got this audition with Joan Jett." Fast forward it 13 years later, you know, he's the manager. They're doing big tours and with a lot of other rock acts. They're doing a thing right now with a million different. Well, they're not. No one's doing anything right now, but. Yeah, he can jump both. He can jump into any situation and make it right. It's the intensity. But you know, he got the gig saying, you know, I knew the Indian restaurant. He goes, yeah, I live in Long Island. I have a place in Long Island. He would be hanging with me. That's how he got the job. Well, that's not how he got it. I mean, he stood on his own 2 feet. I mean, you just know the guy has command of things. But it didn't hurt that he could hang out and crash in Long Island with me, and gave us an excuse to hang out and fish. So, but I'm sorry, I like tangents. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. The whole God's Instrument thing reminded me of this show in Kansas City where Ed somehow tapped into the lighting system at the church, and when Maynard announced the the God's Instrument, he had the lights in the whole church come down, all the lights in the back go up on the trumpet section, and it just reminded me.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it just reminded me of that story. But I
got a picture of us. We're in Miami at Coral Gables Church, playing that church with Maynard again, and Maynard and I were cutting up something fierce. He came back to the trumpet section, and it looks like we're doing everything that we can to sin and there's a cross right behind us. I'm like, man. I got to find that picture.
Yeah.
Good darn.
Really quick, I know there's some people that have been on here in the chat for
okay.
almost 45 minutes. So
thank you.
2 weeks in a row, George Wright says hello from Missouri.
What's up, Mr. Wright? He's the quintessential frontliner. Thank you, man, for being on those front lines. You're the man. Thank you. Without you, there's no us. Thanks for keeping everybody safe. And I think I have the same last name as my friend Steven.
Yeah, I think I know the guy. There's a couple other hellos. We got Marianne Stone. We got Mike MacArthur.
Buddy, Marianne. How you doing, sweetie? It's my sailing buddy from the South Shore of Long Island.
Yep. Mandy Blumenthal says hello.
Mandy from Philly. What's up?
Lori, any last name that I butcher, feel free to blast me in the chat. Lori Collado says, hey.
Oh, yeah. All right, cool. What's up, Lori? Cool.
Danielle Benya is on.
Girl Danielle. Beautiful.
Got BMR Golf says hello.
I'm sorry, you got cut off.
Tag is BMR Golf Page says hello. So
cool.
We got some guy named Jerry Lopez.
You Jerry. What's up, my man? We miss you. Where you at? You in Orlando? He's a great trumpet player, great friend. It's been a while, my friend. Hopefully we can hook up.
Man,
hope you will.
Couple other hellos. We got Ryan Hoffman on.
Talked to Ryan last week. He's my Tampa repairman, trumpet repairman. He's a good dude. Yep. I haven't broke anything yet this week, but you know, it's only Tuesday yet. You know, I could break. I have plenty of horns here I could break, so I'm sure I'll break something.
Dan Potts says hello.
My man Dan has the Maynard, one of the Maynard sites. I can't remember which one, but he's an aficionado of Maynard Ferguson and runs one of his pages. And Dan sends me stuff I'd never seen. Quite frankly, it's almost over. I almost get over. What's the word I'm looking for? It gets to the point. I look at it. I'm like, how can anybody? You know, again, I keep on going back to the Maynards. How can anybody be such a, you know, Maynard had so much command of the instrument. Dan's finding these things I haven't seen before, and he shares them. He shares them with the community, which is great. And you see these things, and you just say, man, what am I playing this instrument for? You know, if you thought like that, you'd never play. Again, you have to take a lot of things with a grain of salt. You're going to be you no matter what you play. But Dan's great at sharing these things and making you feel like, man, I have no business playing this instrument. I'm kidding you, Dan. You're actually being positive for the instrument. We thank you.
You know, kind of along those same lines, we have a question from Phil. asking if you have any stories in particular about the tribute concert that happened.
Phil.
I always butcher your last name, Phil. You're eventually going to have to tell me how to pronounce this. Is it Patecia? Patecia?
Oh, okay, yeah, my man from Texas. So it's about the Maynard thing and what, the tribute concert?
Yeah, just if you had any particular stories about the tribute concert. I know that was a tough night for everybody.
Yeah, I have one story to six. I have a lot of stories that night, but where I am with tributes, and I'm going to go off on a tangent here, so stop me if I get too long and winded. And Maynard always was vocal about being yourself and playing like yourself. And when I'm dead, won't be another Maynard Ferguson. I don't want a ghost band. I don't want a band running around like Duke Ellington hey, what Duke Ellington is writing was totally different than his playing, obviously. But Maynard brought his vibe and energy. Not that Duke didn't. It was a totally different stylistic thing, and Duke was a great writer. But Maynard came from the school of, when I'm done, playing my memory, that's great, but I don't want anybody trying to regurgitate my thing. I don't need a ghost band. So, when Maynard did die, it came across my desk like within a day, a whole bunch of stuff came, like who's going to fill Maynard's dates first? Because Maynard still had a long schedule of gigs, and so Wayne Bergeron and I got called to kind of finish dates, and both of them was like, nope, we're not doing it. It's not what Maynard wanted, nor could we do it, and Wayne would say the same thing. Wayne's a monster. Wayne is Wayne Bergeron. He's Wayne. He's not Maynard, So Wayne got that. So fast forwarded to this tribute that we're going to do when Maynard officially died. Go to St. Louis. All of us, alumni and current band members that were still working in Maynard's last band, we all were really nervous, man, and playing his music, especially without him. But playing in that vibe, and we were all shocked that he passed away. I'll never forget the first tune, and it's on the DVD, that I can't really sit through the whole DVD. And the reason I'm going on this whole long, got the hands, see? See Italian. I'm just checking out the pixels.
You were cooking sauce earlier, so you're still in the mood.
Did it stay up? Yeah, did it stay? The whole reason I'm going on this tangent is, the story of playing that first tune, Blue Birdland, which was Maynard's walk-on. It was extended one from the normal show, and it was the full big band thing. And the trumpet section, I believe, was Wayne, myself. Can't remember everything all the time, but I remember I had the first solo. And prior to that, just before we walked on, Wayne and I were bawling. So was Dennis de Blasio. So was everybody in the band was bawling. We were all crying. And I remember, which is the walk on, nice medium swing, swinging along. There wasn't one dry eye in the trumpet section. I guess we're wimps. Trumpet players, we're all crying. And then all of a sudden, all right, Carl, you got to play. And so, I threw my harmony mute in just to be different. I didn't want to do the Maynard thing off. I just played me, and so that was a very touching moment. That it's just like I see that, and it was a great. There was a lot of wonderful vibes and energy there, and we were all there for one reason, for the man. But you fast forward it again, and there's been a lot of tribute concerts past that. And I'm the one I can even point my finger at. I had a band, I still do, called the Nouveau Big Band. And I play Frank Green was playing lead trumpet. We were in New York up until I left New York City 7 years ago. We were playing once every 2 weeks at a club in Queens, in Astoria. Danielle used to come. We were playing a lot of the obscure Maynard charts, but they weren't the famous things. But what we were cognizant of as a band was playing it like ourselves. Not playing every Maynard, hey, I'm going to play the theme from Rocky. I'm going to play it like Maynard. No, Maynard didn't want that. So playing in that vein, playing with the vibe and that hang, I think that's really positive. But unfortunately, you always get, like we said, even in jazz, duplication is the first, thing that everybody does, and it's like it pays homage to the musician. That's great, but Maynard, for me, I have that sound in my head. No one's gonna replace that sound. It rings. I hear him play things still when I'm on stage, and sometimes something will come out just by accident, like a note or something. I'd be like, "Oh wow, where did I get that from?" It hits me. I'm like, I heard someone else do that, and wasn't planned that way. But when you contrive something and try to play, one of his favorite tunes on one of his most popular tunes, and go out and you do a good job of it, but you're not gonna out Maynard Maine. No one's gonna out Maynard Maine. Where you can go out with the Duke Ellington Band and the Count Basie Orchestra, you can play that music. That music is timeless. It's the writing of that music that made it special. What Maynard brought was his style and his energy and his sound. He had writers, Maynard didn't write a lot, he did write some songs, but that wasn't his specialty. That wasn't his thing. It was what Maynard brought to the party. And so how do you replace one individual? You don't. So anyway, that was the roundabout question from my man, Phil.
That was good.
I like being good. Thanks. You're good too.
Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm the hype man.
That's good.
Yeah.
Hey, you're good. Hey, what's your sauce?
Let's see some stuff that's maybe. All right, let's cross the bridge a little bit, because we've got some Billy folks on here and we've got some Maynard folks on here. So let's cross the bridge with a little segue. If you had to pick one Maynard tune, and then you had to pick one Billy tune to play.
To play or my favorite?
Well, the question is your favorite to play? Yes.
Can't play with a mask on.
Well, I mean, you are being safe.
Don't work. Can't get the vibration.
No, but I did.
That's asking like a fish, what bait he's going to eat at that time. There's so many good baits around, so many good tunes around. It's the time and moment. Right now, my time and moments are Misra De Nuka just hit me. Yeah. Talking about Indian food. Maynard always would have. I was on and off Maynard's band for 12 years. And every time I rejoined, he'd have another Indian tune, a raga, which is an Indian scale. It's kind of that harmonic minor raga thing. And every time I'd rejoin the band, he'd have another Indian tune. And Misra was actually co-written by my man, Ron Oswansky, the Octopus. Ron was a piano player in Maynard's band. He was my organ player on my first two records, the original Organic Groove record and Adverse Times. He was my left-hand man and right-hand man in my first organic bands. So him and Maynard actually wrote Misra De Nuka. So that sticks in my head just because I was thinking about Indian food.
Yeah.
But it was intense, passionate, great arrangement, and it was very through composed and a lot of contrapuntal lines. And you know what? I was listening. I was in the car yesterday. I had to go to the grocery store. And I turned on a Billy Joel channel. Again, this is just today's flavor. I turned on the Billy Joel channel, and a tune that he only does, I think it's just piano and himself singing. I'd love to hear it in a symphony. I'd love to do an arrangement of it. I'd love to hear it in a symphony setting. And So It Goes. I just think that's just a very poignant song. The melody's gorgeous. The changes are great. I'd love to hear that. It's great what he does with it. Just, the pared down instruments that are on his original recording, but he played that. And he was actually on the Billy Joel channel. He was talking about writing romantic songs, which was really interesting. I learned a lot. you think, Billy's a great guy, and he was like, Maynard and Billy have a lot in common. You learn from them indirectly. Maynard never said, hey, you need to learn how to do this, or Billy will never say on the bandstand or even hanging out, hey, I really need you to play, on the end of this tune, I need you to play down an octave. I need you not, he'll never say that. It will always be something that is not obtuse. It's just, and that's the sign of a true leader. So, but I remember Billy saying in this interview just the other day, and it's on XM radio, when I write romantic songs, it's about not everybody can write a happy romantic song. Don't quote me, but this was basically what he said. Everybody can write, I'm not good at writing a happy, romantic song. I can write a song that is yearning and longing, like, oh, a love that I lost. And they play it and he talked about, and so it goes. Hey, and so it goes. And I thought that was very poignant, the way he talked about it. And actually, when you listen to the lyrics, that's a really, really great thing to check out. And I'm going to say that for horn players and young horn players. It goes back to Dexter Gordon and Coleman Hawkins. If you don't know who these guys are, you need to check them out. Old tenor players that are masters of melody. And I remember playing with Billy Mitchell, who was a great tenor player out of that school. He was with Basie's band. Great tenor player. I used to play with him weekly at a place called Sonny's in Long Island. And he would always say, you gonna play that melody? Okay, you play that melody? What are the words? I'm like, huh? You know the words? I'm like, I don't know the words, Mr. Mitchell. You better go home. Next week you go home, you learn those words. I came back. I think it was, I don't remember what tune it was. It was old standard. And I learned the words. And I still didn't really understand. He goes, you know what I'm talking about with those words? I'm like, no. He goes, play it. He goes, all right, come back. I want you to sing me the first two verses of the tune. I can't, I'm a decent singer at best. I have a raspy throat. I can do octaves and unisons and stuff like that. But a lead vocalist, no. But I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to do these verses. And that showed me, if you knew the intent of the lyric of the song, you could mirror that in your phrasing. It gave you a stronghold and it helped your phrasing out as an instrumental player. And so knowing the intent of the line really helped out you shaping that song. So it's an old kind of cool trick that the old guys would always yell at me for, and not just me, a lot of players. So.
Well, and in a tune like "And So It Goes," you're so exposed that if you can't color a picture for people, it'll come off flat.
It's got to be genuine.
Yeah.
You look at, I think he's doing it tomorrow night. I got on the other night. I think I don't know what days are. Tomorrow's Wednesdays and Saturdays. My bandmate, Mike Del Judas, he sits, he has his Live from the Porch series. He sits in front of his piano and has his guitar and his vocal mic. And he sings anything from Journey to Billy to freaking AC/DC to James Taylor. And he's convincing, and he does it because, well, he can do it, but it's honest. There's no, there's nothing better than that. That's why, people always ask me, hey, will you just play and talk? And I feel like I do that a lot of clinics, but now I'm not going out. By the way, you guys know I'm a doctor. Let me just open your mouth. Let me see. I put my glasses on. But the whole doctor thing is funny because why I'm saying that is workshops, the age-old thing is you go to my school and do a clinic. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. It's just kind of going out and being honest and playing to your best ability and trying to portray whatever you're trying, a happy moment. People go very, they remember things, how they felt during a song, how it, brings you back to, I remember when I hear Down Easter, that's another Down Easter Alexa Billy tune, one of my favorite songs. In fact, I recorded that on Adverse Times. We did a version of that. And one of the reasons why I want to do that is because it brings me to a time and place. And Mike Del Judas can do that. There's a lot of artists that can do that, but he's giving it away on the internet, man. It's great. Right now is a really cool time. We're all kind of sharing because, again, we'll learn from each other. So Learn me something, please.
let me see here. Where did we leave off in the chat? Got a couple other quick hellos. Carlo says hello.
Carlos. Carlos who?
Carlo Isabelli says
Carlo.
hello.
Carlo, I keep on telling you, man, when are you going to get in that freaking car and drive? Like, well, you can't drive because you got to stay home. But when this whole order is done, you got to drive to LaGrange and see Steven and play a CF trumpet. I know you're playing the mouthpiece. Thank you, man. How you doing, bro? Hope you're healthy and happy.
We got the hang monster here, Frank Benici.
Wait, stop.
Yeah. Well, and he has a very important question before you tell a story.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you got, Frankie?
Favorite new Bertram, 35, 50, or 61?
61, hands down.
All right.
A whole bunch of pamphlets over here. I was, and the reason why I was at the factory a lot. Actually, I ran on a lot. The 35s were the R&D, research and development, were done prior to me joining the company. They were done in Maine, and then they started making them down here in Tampa. Bertram is a
boat
manufacturer here in Tampa. I actually have an old 35 myself, but they came out with a new 35. The 61 I'm excited about, and I still am excited about because I have a lot of time on it. And before hole number 1 came out, the president of the company, the CEO of the company, Peter Treslow, and he's the one that hired me for the job. And he actually, I was a broker and I dealt with sales and service. But also he knew I was a Bertram freak, and I had passion, just like I had passion for music. That's the other thing for kids, man. And even adults, I don't care. I mean, we're all looking at, jobs are scarce now. It's okay to have other passions. Mine happens to be fishing and boating. So Peter recognized his passion. I had my licenses prior, captain's license. When for the rainy day, I also had my sales license, my broker's license, and all these things. But he's seen that in me, and he's like, I want you to help out with research and development. So man, for 6 months, I'd go into the factory and we would build a cockpit. You'd build a cockpit, you'd mock it up. And you mock it up in wood, and what do you think about this? And then we do the flybridge, and we do the salon, and we do go through the whole boat. And man, he would take everybody's opinion who he trusted and chalk it on, put it on a whiteboard, and we'd have meetings about it. And that boat finally came out, and I fished that boat from Florida all the way up to New Jersey and that boat fished great. And I love that boat. The 50 that's coming out, I didn't have much to do with. I think it's a great boat. I think everything they make. The 35 I ran a lot, but the 61 has a lot of the things that we talked about in those meetings came true in that design. So I kind of parallel to that my trumpet company, my trumpet model now to see how, again, research and development. I knew what I liked, and same thing. So don't be afraid to have other passions in your life, man, and take advantage of them and try to get around people. Same thing in music, man. You want to be around people that doing the same thing that you want to do. And same thing with the boat thing for me, man. It was Peter. I became friendly with him and we hit it off. He's like, man, you have a knack for this. I was like, well, I'm dabbling in it. And Billy, I remember with Billy Joel, man, I think it was 2000. I joined in 2005, so I think it was 2007. I didn't know how long this Billy thing was going to last. I don't know. No one really knew. I mean, when we started rehearsing in 2005 with the Billy thing, it was, we're going to do a couple garden gigs. Then it was 12 Gardens Live. Then it was a tour, and it just kept on snowballing. The demand was there. But I was on track. I was like, I went and got my captain's license. I always was into boating and fishing. And I told Bill I'm getting my license. And I remember I was on a charter with him, charter plane, and I came in with my license. He gave it to me. He goes, man, he goes, I did the same thing. He did it without a school. He actually did it with the maritime books. He's a smart book learning son of a gun, man. He's amazing. So he had Chapman's Pilot, which is a great maritime book. And that test is no joke, man. So since then, I got my 6-pack. I went to school for it. And then I bumped it up. We were off in 2010. We had a hiatus from 2010 to 12. and I went and bumped it up to my 100-ton. I was running a ferry boat for a minute, my friend's ferry boat. So don't be afraid to go out the box, man. Frankie.
So do we need to put, is it Dr. Captain or is it Captain Doctor?
Whatever. Just don't call me late for my own sauce.
All right, let's see here. I did miss one question, music related over here. Do you have a favorite out of your horns to play, and why?
Out of my horn collection, or
out of your horn collection? Yeah.
Do I have a favorite?
Yep. That's from Ryan.
And I'm not saying this because I make it. The best horn I play is the one that I design. And if it wasn't that way, I wouldn't be playing it. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. I did this last week. Can I do this? I'll do this. My office. That's my trumpet collection. Start there and goes all the way down the wall. And they're all yearly. It starts from 1928 to current day. And the way I look at it, if you're going to do something, believe in it 100%. So when I left Yamaha Trumpets, I was with Yamaha for 10 years, wonderful company. Loved those guys to death. When I left them, again, as you see, I have a million horns. I like playing them. I have special ones that mean a lot to me that play great. If I had to pick one, I would say it would be my 61 Maynard Constellation. That era of horns I really like. Playing modern on them is very hard. They're not that forgiving. So that's where the CF horn, the Yamaha was introduction into where the CF took over. I did some custom things with Yamaha I liked, and that worked for a number of years. But so when I left Yamaha, I was like, I got plenty of horns here. I'll play the flavor of the week. They're all great horns. They all lend themselves to a different sound. And that's actually, we can get onto that later. Once this whole quarantine ends, I put these horns together and that wall together chronologically and time period wise from the horns and who played them. And you could go through those. So it's my collection. You can go through these horns and play them and actually sound. If you want to sound like Lewis, I have a balance action Louis Armstrong horn. It's not going to make you sound like Lewis. Lewis sounded like Lewis, but it'll aid in making that sound a little bit more prevalent, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But the audition for the CF horn with Warburton had to play better for what I'm doing. In the situation I'm doing, had to be better and be the best horn for what I'm doing now. And not only do I have one, I have two. And the reason I have two is one breaks. I'm very tough on things. So, man, I got two of them. And those are ones to the point I was saying earlier. This is 000. This is the first one made. Let's see. So this is before 001, which a friend of mine, Stephen Wright, has 001. Frank Benici, I think you have horn 16 of the CF. But you see, this horn looks horrible. I remember my buddy Marianne Stone, she took a great shot of me playing my Yamaha. My Yamaha has it's a gold plated, has a dragon engraved on it. The horn's gorgeous, man. I never had time to get these horns finished. We play tested them. Okay, this works. Let's try some brace different. So now I have time. Maybe I should get it plated. But so yeah, right now for me, it's my CF horns. If I was to play a different style, it would still be my CF horns. But again, I'm very fortunate because I've had a collection for a long time and I know what I'm going after.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Let's see what else we got here.
Sorry.
We got chat coming in. Bruno Garcia.
Is that my Brazilian? We got Brazil. Is that Brazil?
Yeah.
Brazil. What's up, Brazil?
Yep. Is there anything in particular that you practice? I know we talked about this a little bit last week in relation to maintenance and things like that, but anything in particular that you do to keep your chops in shape over this time?
I'm looking. Because I found it the other day. If I can find it, I'll be the man. So, do we have a lot of trumpet players on here, Stephen?
We got quite a few, yeah.
Of course, now when I'm looking for it, wait, is it here? Now I'm looking for it, I can't find it. I have my bookshelf over here. Kind of like soul and jazz. You pick a whole bunch of different players that you like and you throw them into a pot and you stir it up and get what works for you. I did that with exercise books, Schlossberg book, Clark Technical Studies book, Don Jacoby's book. Did I say Schlossberg already? Did I say Schlossberg? I like that word, Schlossberg. I took as many things, Doc Reinhardt's studies. I took as many, a lot of Chaz Colin. Chaz Colin had a whole series of lip flexibility stuff. Those were great. My dad was a great trumpet player, so he had all these books and knew these routines well. And so he had tailored a routine for himself out of these books. So I remember even being young, okay, you play the Schlossberg exercise and then you go over here and you work your fingers out on Clark. Throughout the years, I became very efficient on sounding bad in the practice room and working on my weaknesses. And every weakness, every trumpet player has basically the same things they got to work on: your sound, your fingers, your flexibility, your air, so these are not mysteries. So I would take exercises out of these books that worked for me, that I like doing. And I would put them in a very systematic approach that worked for me. So in 2000, no, it was in the 90s, like 94, 95 or 96, I put together a book called Chop Maintenance, Carl Fischer's Chop Maintenance. And I sold at Maynard Ferguson's merchandise table. He let me sell those. I was one of the first guys, I think, that was actually available, back in the 90s, man. I was slinging those books out. And my buddy Phil Gray from New York helped me out with it. And it was just a whole bunch of different things that I just kind of put together, and it worked for me. So that was my maintenance. That could last anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour and a half, depending on my workload and when I had to do that in evening or day. But I knew those were my Wheaties. That was my energy. That's how I kept my sound together, my fingers and everything, got everything going. To this day, I do those same exercises, but of course you evolve. So it's evolved into some other exercises, adding things, retracting things, making things a little bit more efficient. And so now actually I'm working on volume 2 of the book. I've been doing it for a long time, the exercises, and adding to them. And so now I want to come up with volume 2, and we're working on putting that on Fish Music. But again, I'm not trying to sell my book. It's $6. You should buy it right now. If you don't buy it right now, I'm kicking you off the YouTube. I'm kidding.
And here's the link.
What I'm saying is, forget my book. You don't need another great trumpet player. You don't need to be another great trumpet player. You need to be a good person. What works for you works. So pick out these classic books: your Schlossberg, your Clarks, your lip flexibilities, your Arbins, your Don Jacoby book. Man, that was a great book. All these things. And do what works for you. I can aid you and show you what I do with this book, but it might work for you, it might not. There's also some concepts that a lot of people, especially young people, do not understand still. And it's the pressure concept. It's just stopping the vibrate. The analogy would be the first person. I'm going to play a little game. Usually it's drinking games, but I'm going to play a little game. The first person to answer this question on a chat will win. What can we give them, Stephen? We'll send them something. We'll send them a CD.
Okay, we can do that.
All right, we'll send them a CD. We'll send them Adverse Time CD. You can use it as a coaster. That's what I do. I'll send you a CD. So the first person to jump in, what's the first thing as a trumpet player that happens? What is the first thing that happens when you're playing trumpet? When the sound doesn't come out, what happens? Is it your airstream? What happens? You're going, and here's your example. You're playing along nice. What's going on there? You're not Arab biscuit there? What's going on there? First person that can tell me what happens gets a coaster. Carl Fischer CD coaster.
All right. While we're waiting for answers to come in the chat here, got a couple other hellos that came in while we're waiting. Brian Scriver joined.
Hey, Brian, you Canadian crazy man.
GR Mouthpieces
man,
says
he's
hello.
the VP of sales for GR Technologies Mouthpieces. We had a great hang last Thursday on Instagram, sporting the GR CF model JRW, the brand new JRW. Brian and I talked about that on the Instagram hang. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming.
First answer is in. It's being caused by too much pressure.
Correct. Too much pressure. You're stopping the vibration. Who is that? He
Dan
gets a CD.
Potts.
Who's that?
Dan Potts.
Dan. Wow. Okay. Well, I can give you the CD so you can give it to somebody else or use it as a coaster. Yeah, you're stopping the vibration. It's very simple. You know, you pull. I call it Maynard Ferguson used to call it the 5-minute hero. And what happens is either you're pushing in or pulling in. What happens is, you know, you're stopping the vibration in your lips. So you think it's a simple thing, but I mean, it happens to a lot of players. So learn how to deal with pressure, negatively and positively. Everybody plays with pressure. It's the amount of pressure for the workload that you have. You know, no one's going to tell me, and you can see the way I play, no one's going to say, oh, Carl is definitely a fragile. He plays very efficiently and very, proper. No, I'm slamming this thing. If I could slam it to the back of my throat, I would. Well, I know the threshold. So being in your exercises and fundamentals, playing things where, you know, where the pressure is negatively and positively impacting you. I'm never going to say it's going to positively impact you, but knowing where that muscle memory is and having the flexibility and having the vibrations continue and having the buzz, that's what's happening. If you play saxophone like I do, you know, it's hysterical, man. I get a good sax reed that vibrates. You know, I pick up a box of 5. I get 2 out of the 5 reeds that vibrate. I'm great, man. I'm happy. I'm like, I got my sound. It's not here. Doesn't matter. Like, you know, for the layman, you know, I made a pot of sauce earlier, meatballs and sausage and, you know, and so, you know, all that salt and stuff, man, dries you out, affects you, your chapped lips, you know, stuff like that. That's what's making that sound, the vibration in your chops. I pick up a saxophone, throw a piece of wood on it. That piece of wood's good. That vibrates. I'm cool. So that and air manipulation is a very, very important thing too, but I'm getting very specific.
Since we're talking about chops, Brian says he's been using your advice about switching between trombone and trumpet, and it's actually working for him. Go figure.
My man. All right, send me the check, Bri. Send me the check.
All right, we're gonna completely do a whiplash really quick. Oh, you got something?
Yeah. So,
all right.
You know, Brian and I were talking. This is a marching trombone. It's just sitting behind me. Big mouthpiece. Brian and I were talking about, you know, I don't want to rehash old things, but Brian, check this out. Okay, so switching between the two, the more you can do it, the better it is. This thing, mouthpiece is so big, it feels like someone's punching you and everything's just moving around. The key is, Brian and I talked about, Maynard told me a long time ago, I had the same question. How do you switch between a big mouthpiece and a small mouthpiece? He says, man, you've been playing trumpet long enough. You should know where your center is. You should know where it's at. Get past yourself. Get past the feeling. You're always going to know where your center is. Just get past that feeling. It's in your head. The more you do something, and the more you don't think about it, the easier it is. So I make it a point, man. I don't care what, throw a tenor mouthpiece in my mouth. Yeah, it's going to feel different. It's going to feel uncomfortable. But here's the key. Now, here's the next thing I want you to work on, Brian. This mouthpiece is going to save your career, because what does it do? You look at your Bobby Shoe for your trumpet head. You look at Bobby Shoe, flutter. Bobby Shoe's a great trumpet player for the people who are not trumpet players. Great teacher. And Bobby has this thing called a flutter. This is a muscle. You have to have oxygen in this muscle, right? Now, oxygen comes through in a muscle through the blood flow. Your blood flow, oxygen in your blood, rejuvenates your thing. It's like if someone gives you a punch, a dead punch right here, and you feel like it's a cramp, and you massage it. Same thing with your chops. You play trumpet, a small mouthpiece, you buzz. Bobby Shoe was always talking about fluttering and buzzing, getting back the good blood, getting blood and oxygen in your chops. You need to flutter with this. Play trombone, it does it for you. It opens everything up. Mike Bogart, great trumpet player, plays trombone. He was a Tower of Power, unbelievable lead trumpet player. We had that talk too. Mike replaced me for a tour or two. And actually did it long. He did. I had to replace me for a tour or two, and then I left, and he got the gig with Maynard. But man, he's great trombone player and trumpet player. Same thing, man. We know it. We actually helps our trumpet chops out. It doesn't hamper them. It's going to help you. So think of it that way. Enough about that. Sorry.
Nice.
That'll be $6.99.
Yeah, right. Here's the link. Robert asked if there's any way to get the book. So, like you mentioned before, Carl's working on a version 2 of the book, and if you kind of follow along on social media and his website, we'll make sure that information is out there for everybody.
Yeah, we're going to put it out digitally. We're going to do it digitally, so it's easier. Everybody can just download it.
Yep. All right, I got a text message question that is from a self-proclaimed non-musician.
Cool, I like this. Bring it on.
How do you balance being a fan and somebody you work for? So like with Maynard, how did you balance being a fan of him as a trumpet player, but also being an employee? Same thing with Billy.
Very, very simple. A lot of people, for me, it's very simple. It's the last thing I want to talk about. Let me actually forget the music thing. Stephen, you're a doctor. Let's say you're a heart doctor, and you and I are friends, or you and I go out to dinner. I find out you're a doctor, and I start blowing your phone up, and I start talking to you about, hey, you know what? I've been having this pain. You know anything about a bypass surgery, or you start talking shop. That's a really quick way for you to say what would you say to me?
Yep, I'd be like, hey, you want another drink?
We want to talk about that.
Right. Yep.
How many trumpet players I knew? Hey, Maynard, how you played Hey Jude? How did you play that double C? He didn't know how to play. He didn't know what he did when he did it, because that's Maynard, man. Maynard just did it, man. He was just natural. You think he's really gonna, same, so being that fan, and yeah, you can always be humble and appreciative, but I've seen many musicians, particularly the Maynard band, that came and went really quick, that idolized Maynard, which were just a million questions at a million miles an hour. And it's like, and I'll fast forward to the Billy thing. I'm a firm, again, Billy and Maynard is freaky, had so many similar personality traits. And I really think their personalities, that's why they're such great leaders, because it's indirect. But I remember when I joined Billy's band, actually even prior to being on his band, I befriended him. I was doing Moving Out on Broadway. I was fortunate enough to do that. And he'd come by and say hello, blah, blah, blah. And I think, if I remember right, I wear two things around my neck. For years, it was one thing, was this anchor, cross anchor. It's my sea anchor with a cross on it. And then this was later on when my dad passed away. This was my dad's horn. I always busted my dad's chops. I'm like, man, why do you have a big trumpet around your neck? Now I know why I wear it. It reminds me of my dad. But Billy seen the anchor. He's like, oh, you got a boat? You into fishing? I'm like, yeah, I'm from South Shore now, Bob. We talked about fishing the first time I met him. He's like, hey. Next time he came to the show, hey Carl, how you doing? I'm like, man, I'm the trumpet player. He knows my name. So, we talked, I was riding a lot. I was riding motorcycles a lot too. And at that time, he only had like 6 bikes. He only had 6 or 7 bikes at that time in 2005. So we talk about bikes. We talked about things that were not music, because other guys would go up to him and say, hey, it's great playing with you. I remember when we did this and you did this tune. How did you do that? No, man, just leave it alone. Not that, you need to figure out what he likes and be into it, but we had a mutual admiration for other things that are not, so when I see people come across with, guys that you idolize, they're just normal people. They put their pants on just like you. They really don't want to sit and talk shop, whether it be a doctor, lawyer, pop artist, jazz trumpet player, or sanitation worker. My dad was a sanitation worker. He was an unbelievable trumpet player. My dad drove a sanitation truck. You think when he came home, I was like, Dad, how was your route today? But actually, when I was a kid, I was about that. I wanted to be like my dad. I used to go and hang out with him, and he'd throw me on the truck. I'd go ride his route with him. It was great. But the last thing you want to talk about when you're doing something for a job is your job. So that's the balance. Be humble about it. Talk about it, but leave it there.
Nice. All right, we've got let's see, got a couple of last ones here in the chat. Let's see. Playing in wedding bands and jazz groups in New Jersey, and there's a ton of great players around. How do you stand out with so many musicians out there?
Be true to the music. 18 years with Phase 4 orchestras around New York and New Jersey. Phase, F-A-Z-E, 4 orchestras is down to maybe 7 bands. We're up to 20 bands. It was a club date office. Bob Foreman was the guy I worked for 18 years. The lead singer of that band is the great Brent Carter from Average White Band, who was with Tower of Power. The other lead singer of that band was the great Kelly Say, who sings with Incognito. She's on, what's that show? America's Got Talent? No, The Voice. She's on The Voice. She's one of the lead singers on The Voice now. She's in with Ray Chu. And that band was packed. Had great, everybody, Robin Loeb, great percussionist. And we all played to the best of our abilities. If you're playing for 10 people at a bar mitzvah who don't want to be there, or 10,000 people, it's the same gig. So don't have an attitude about it. Yeah, I remember plenty of times playing gigs on a Sunday afternoon where people really didn't want to be there, and you get treated horrible. And you have to go through the kitchen, and they don't want to give you feed you, whatever. Then you get to the next gig, and Adam Nussbaum, a great jazz drummer, is in the audience and comes and sits in. I met, what's that guy? Oh, he's a Billy Joel, Matt Friedman, some of the Billy guy. Matt Friedman, I'm playing a wedding. Matthew Friedman is a piano player. He did Moving Out with us. One of the piano player singers that would do the Billy Joel thing. I'm playing a club date with Bob Foreman. And Matt, I didn't know Matt. He comes, hey, can I sit in? He came and sat in. And a year later, we're playing on Broadway together, Moving Out. So, just be honest and true and humble. Play the music to your best of ability all the time. Do not phone it in. Don't phone the gig in, man. That's the best advice I can give you. You go to play, you play. Do not phone the gig in.
Yeah, and also to bring it full circle to some of the stuff that you were talking about earlier, it's not always just about the playing. It's those guys are at work too, and girls, they're at work. Be somebody that's good to be around on the gig. Be a fun hang, so to speak.
Absolutely. I had 18 years with Bob Foreman. Prior to that was Dwight Howard Orchestras. Prior to that was started with an S. Stephen Scott, worked with Stephen Scott. All these old club date offices. My dad worked for Stephen Scott. My dad worked for Dwight Howard on weekends. My dad was a great trumpet player in the 60s. He was playing with these offices, and it was funny. When I got these calls, and why I stayed with Bob for so long was he again, a great leader puts together a band that you give them enough rope to hang themselves, and Bob was like that, and still is like that, and you let them do what they do best, man. I remember he'd let me loose on some tunes I could play, and other times I'd be like, man, I'm not playing at all. But he knew when to kind of let everybody have their moment. And so there was always, and still to this day, I still get calls for club dates in New York, guys who want me to recommend them. And I always say, well, and I'd have guys come out and sub. And for me, like I remember for the first 4 years I was on Billy's band, I still played club dates. I didn't care. Oh yeah, you have a garden gig next weekend. You're going to be at the Chateau Lemire in New Jersey. You're playing a cocktail hour too. You're playing jazz and you're playing this. Okay, a gig is a gig, man. But I remember this is I get a call from Bob. He's like, man, you had this guy come in and sub. Don't have him come no more. So why? He just didn't. His playing was good, but his attitude was horrible. So be a person that you want to guys who I hired throughout the years on road bands, on road bands with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and guys who I hired. The first guy that would get the call was the guy, not only could he play good, but the guy who I wanted to hang out with. He didn't have to be a joker, it didn't have to be fun, but he had to be the right temperament for the job. That's why I think I have Billy's gig. That's where I was going with the Billy thing, with the fishing and boating thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's why I got Billy's gig, because we got along. It wasn't because I was just some great trumpet player. I was fortunate enough. I didn't step on my shoes too bad. Occasionally I'll step on them, but you have to, when you get that shot, you have to be proficient. But a lot has to go into it too. Is the hang? It's like what I'm saying tonight. Come hang. It's the hang. So.
Yep.
Hopefully that answered that.
Yeah, definitely. And then just a couple last things here, and then I want to kind of wrap it up for this week. So we got something left to say next week.
I'm running out of things to say.
Dan has the CD already, so Dan has offered the CD up to pay it forward next week. So what we'll do next week, if you guys want to share out the stream and subscribe and stuff like that, what we'll do is we'll do a comment drawing for a couple CDs next week for everybody that's around, and we'll go with that. Let's see. Mike MacArthur says, great hang, guys. Much love to everybody. See you at the studio soon, Carl.
Hope so, Mikey.
Allison says, thanks for making us laugh. Mask with the horn. That was pretty funny. I saw Facebook obviously has some stupid things on every now and then. I saw a meme of this old guy that created a mask out of some old jeans so he could unzip the fly and fit his beer bottle in it. That was pretty it was creative.
I wonder if I could play trombone with this. Which I can. I'll see if I can get a sound. It's such a big mouthpiece. Almost got it.
You almost got a hernia.
I got a little something.
All right. I will leave you to the last words here with the most important question that has been asked the entire time, and it comes from a cousin of yours. And then I will let you have the last word, and we'll wrap things up for today. So before I ask the question, thank you for everybody that joined. I'm going to leave the screen. And thank you for everybody that participated in the chat. That always definitely helps things along. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, there's that subscribe button down here somewhere. My picture is reversed, so down here. If you hit the subscribe button and you hit the like and you hit the bell, every time we go live, you'll get a notification letting you know that we're out here. And a hang isn't a hang. A hang isn't a hang if there's nobody to hang with. So definitely come out and participate moving forward. So
We're doing it weekly too, also.
yeah, definitely weekly on Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, James. James Capozzi from Baldwin says thank you and hello.
What's his last name? Fleischman?
Capozzi. Capozzi.
Oh, cool. What's up, James?
Yeah. So thank you guys for participating, and I will get off the screen and ask the most important question of the night. How was the sauce?
Sauce is always good, man. It's my Aunt Rose, who's from Sicily, who's on the Felix side, from the Jersey side. My Aunt Rose's sauce that my dad used to make. My dad and my Aunt Rose were tight. And my dad took the sauce thing over 40 years ago. And I got his recipe. I've been doing it. I try to do it at least once a month. Lately, I haven't done it. You make it. It's right. It feels good. I think we all need. Today was a day where we kind of felt like we needed it, Ken and I, my wife, and so we manged on that. You got to have a little sausage in there, of course, the meatballs, and then tomorrow we're gonna drop it off to Mom and my brother, and share some smacking with them. Of course, we won't be able to be within 6 feet, but that's fine. So we drop it off. But sauce is usually it's my Sunday gravy. But some people in LA, they're gonna be nameless, and even some Long Island people we got in fights about: is it sauce or is it gravy? Is it Sunday gravy? Is it sauce? Whatever it is, it's freaking good. That's all I can tell you. It's freaking good. And I usually make it Sunday, so we call it Sunday sauce. But the LA guys, well, the sauce is brown. Yeah, no shit, it's brown. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's brown. All right, but it's the vibe. You got to capture the vibe. So yeah, it was great, man. We enjoyed it, and it's all good. We appreciate you guys coming and hanging. We really do. We need this just as much as you guys maybe need it. Maybe you don't need it, but if you do need it, tell your friends. Come out in numbers because we like hanging. And we're also, one thing Stephen didn't say and I'm going to say is I get tired of talking. You guys heard my stories. I got 10 stories and that's it. We're going to have some guests come on. So next week, I don't know if we can do it next week, but we're going to try. I'm going to try to have guests every week on top of having my sidekick, Stephen. I'd like to thank Stephen for all the virtual and computer help as always. Man, you're a good man. You always make it look and sound good. So thank you, and tell your friends and keep an eye out for who we're going to have, because every week it's going to be different. And it's the hang. So be safe and be kind. Thank you. Take care.